context. You don't just wake up one day and say, okay, now I'm leading this group of young people. That takes time too. What do we do in the interim? What are some of the quicker interventions that one can begin thinking about so we can get there a little bit faster? The concern, perhaps by many, is that if we wait 50 years for that to happen, we're going to be having the same conversation in 50 years' time.
See, that's what makes this subject a very complicated one. In actual fact, we've been waiting for more than 50 years already. Here we are discussing this. Because to be able to define the leadership relative to Africa we want, maybe this has been the question even before I was born. And the main effort has been in the theoretical part of leadership. We've talked so much about leadership and what is expected of leadership. We have also had so much time talking about and defining the problems of Africa. What has been lacking is the practical side of it. How do we get to do what we know we ought to so that Africa can get better? This is where the problem lies. And so that requires, therefore, that we simply look at different cases and say, what went wrong here and how can it be corrected? Or how did these things happen here so that we can learn from this and maybe replicate it elsewhere? But the complexity of it is that we have not even been short of lessons to learn from. So there is something fundamentally wrong that I cannot explain. We know the problem. We actually every time discuss solutions. Everybody, if we sat here and they passed pieces of paper around for us to do a test on leadership, we would all get A's. And this has been the case for so long. But what happens when it comes to delivery of what we know we must deliver for our people? What happens is something I can simply not very easily explain. Now, but let me quickly touch on and build on what some other people have said. Issues of age and so on and so forth. Oh, we have seen young people mess up like you've never seen. So it's not an issue of age, much as I would agree with what Mo said to an extent, but not entirely. Because even leaders, whether young or whatever age, you see, all of us grow through a system, something. You see, developing leaders or leaders to develop requires some kind of upbringing. You know, the environment, the things that affect these leaders or affect the people and so on. That's how leaders may emerge. But I'm talking about this just to give you a quick example. In our situation here, you see, Rwanda is a case for a very bad example of failure. It's also a case for some progress, if you will. But if you look at what happened here 20 years ago, the genocide had almost the entire population, but the majority of them being young people. They were led into doing what they did that cost us 1 million lives, young people. But of course, what went wrong was politics and the leaders, irrespective of age. We had leaders here who taught our people that they belong to this one ethnic group. It's the majority. It must be the one with power, and all the others should be excluded, not only excluded, but killed. And you know what happened? For example, just take an example of an ordinary person who has nothing at home, not even a chicken to look after, not a goat, nothing, but he's taught to believe, you are a Hutu, Hutu power. And the guy claps and says, yes, Hutu power. But what do you have in it? Now, what this means, the leaders who were teaching them that, they thrive on that, they play on that, because they have everything in their own hands, even at their expense. When there is a competition for resources or power or things like that, he calls upon the other one, who has really nothing apart from indoctrination, and tells him, your neighbor who is different from you is a danger to you. And then mobilizes him and says, because he's a danger to you, you go and kill him and take over whatever he has. Now, driven by this poverty, this person has been pushed into, follows instructions even before they are fully issued. Now, this is the leadership Africa, this is the leadership Rwanda has had for such a long time. Now, imagine this ordinary person, very poor, with jiggers in his feet. He's made to be drunk with something called Hutu power. And he thinks it means anything. No, it is jigger power, not Hutu power. He has nothing. But he's made, so the leaders we have had in the past are this kind of leaders. So we have to reverse that. We have to make sure that leaders are there for a purpose. And the purpose is to lead, is to work towards development, transformation, betterment of their people's lives. There's no question about it. So the practical side of it, the delivery, leaders must deliver on what they are expected to
But the
do.
truth of the matter is that leaders come from society. Leaders come from society, right? So they come from everywhere. We can look in this room, look at all of you who are sitting up here, and even if we go into the floor, all our backgrounds are varied. So is the question or the issue around the leaders, or is the issue around the societies that we're creating that actually bear fruit to those leaders? If I could put that question to you, how do we begin sort of making sense of that dynamic? Because otherwise, again, we'll be talking in half a decade, half a century, a century.
Thank you very much. My name is William Ruto, just for the record.
And I shall apologize.
Let me pick up from where President Kagame left.